if the Mongol cavalry were the nightmare of Eurasia, the Mamluk horsemen were the world's heroes in shining armor. They not only thrice repelled the Mongol Empire's westward expansions, but also shattered the dreams of crusaders seeking to conquer the East, bringing an end to Europe's 200-year-long crusades. Their ability to defeat two formidable armies speaks volumes about the Mamluks' ferocity in battle. Yet their success wouldn't have been possible without one man's vision: Saladin, the legendary ruler of the Middle East. In 1096, Western feudal lords, under the guise of divine mission, launched the Crusades, sweeping through Muslim lands with 100,000 heavy armored troops and seizing the holy city of Jerusalem. This clash ignited centuries of religious strife, with the Crusaders wielding absolute power and plunging the Middle East into prolonged chaos. It wasn't until 1171 when Saladin emerged as the game-changer. A savior of Islam, he rose to fame at 30 for bravely resisting the Crusaders and spent 3 years conquering Egypt, founding the Ayyubid dynasty. Consolidating power, he unified Yemen, Sudan, Libya, and other scattered Islamic regions. Saladin's prowess was undeniable as he set his sights on reclaiming Jerusalem. Leading 27,000 troops in 1177, his march was halted by a sandstorm at Montgisard, where lurking Frankish knights ambushed his Egyptian forces. Despite valiant resistance, faced with well-equipped European heavy cavalry, Saladin was forced into retreat, with only a tenth of his soldiers surviving. This defeat revealed the European heavy cavalry's might to Saladin, prompting him to emulate the Crusaders by forming his own knightly order. He revamped the Ghulam Corps, recruited tens of thousands of Turkic warriors from Central Asia, and rigorously trained only the strongest soldiers. Clad in iron helmets and chainmail, these tough Turkic fighters, now Mamluks, became even more formidable. Slavery has historically been synonymous with the lowest rung of society, enduring lives often likened to living deaths. Yet paradoxically, slaves were also valuable commodities, even used as currency in trade. However, in a rare historical twist, a slave-formed force emerged as Egypt's rulers. What made these slave warriors, the Mamluks, so fearsome? Firstly, their exceptional weaponry. Finely crafted bows, powerful steeds, and rigorous training in archery were their hallmarks. Each Mamluk was equipped with a lance, helmet made of steel and chainmail. Their mounts, famed Arabian horses, boasted unmatched speed and stamina. The term Mamluk in Arabic translates to slave, reflecting their origins. Initially sourced from regions like the Caucasus and northern Black Sea, young boys, often under 6 years old, were forcefully brought in through various means. Every year, Arab slave traders ferried thousands of these children to markets in Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo, where sultans would select the best for loyalty training. At age 14, selected children entered specialized military schools, enduring brutal training regimes that focused on cavalry tactics, archery, and combat skills. They began shooting arrows while standing and then from horseback, eventually mastering mounted archery at full gallop. A third of these boys perished during this grueling process. Those who survived became emotionless war machines, devoid of family or sentiment. The surviving recruits, however, thrived under the Mamluk training ethos. Their discipline and prowess were honed through tactical drills in formations and coordinated assaults. Unlike Mongol horsemen who favored mobility and long-range strikes, Mamluks relied on well-organized cavalry charges supplemented by devastating bow volleys. In combat, Mamluks used lightweight but effective gear, diamond-hard helmets, steel chainmail, and a formidable arsenal comprising strong bows, lances, and Damascus steel swords. Their combat skills were unmatched, capable of striking dates hanging mid-air during full gallop. Though initially slaves, their exceptional battlefield performance elevated their status within Egyptian society. Over time, they integrated politically and economically, forming a powerful and tightly knit community. Despite their internal cohesion, they faced widespread disdain and fear from native Egyptians. Combining the best of European knightly traditions and Central Asian light cavalry tactics, Mamluks were unparalleled on the battlefield. Their legacy endured as they ruled Egypt for over 300 years under the Mamluk Sultanate, leaving an indelible mark on history. Though nominally slave soldiers, Saladin cherished the Mamluks as his ace. Their valor was rewarded with opportunities for glory, aiding Saladin in capturing Mosul from 1183 and asserting control over Syria and the Arabian Peninsula. The Mamluk Sultanate, despite its origins in slavery, emerged as the formidable adversary during the Mongols' Third Western Campaign. Its name, meaning slave dynasty, stemmed not from a slave uprising but from internal power struggles within the Ayyubid dynasty. After the sudden death of the seventh Sultan, Salah ad-Din, his ambitious wife attempted to seize power. In collaboration with Mamluk commander Aybak, they orchestrated the assassination of their 3-month-old son, a classic palace coup. They then installed a young son as Sultan, while wielding actual authority, sparking significant backlash in the Muslim community. Her attempts to imprint her image on currency and demand prayers for her further fueled discontent. Given the strict Muslim norms against female rule, she eventually recognized the futility of her efforts, deposing the young sultan and marrying Aybak, enabling his son, Al-Mansur Ali, to ascend. The Mamluk Sultanate was formally established in 1257. Its famous generals and the real opponents of the Mongol army were the Baibars. Of Turkic descent from the Kipchak steppe, Baybar's childhood was harsh, even sold into Mamluk ranks after narrowly escaping Mongol capture during 1242. Over time he found his footing, leaving a profound mark on the Muslim world. Baybars proved not only a stellar military mind, but a skilled politician and diplomat. Dubbed Victorious King, Lion King, and Leopard King, he surpassed even Saladin's renown, reshaping world history through his ascent from slavery to sovereignty, a true legend of reversal. Baybars was a slave sold to the Mamluk army and quickly rose through the ranks. Originally trained by Saladin as a professional force of obedient slave soldiers, the Mamluks became a powerful force in Egypt towards the end of the Ayyubid era. Baybars integrated himself into their leadership and demonstrated his military prowess, eventually leading an elite guard and even capturing French King Louis IX in battle. Despite his success, conflicts with the Egyptian rulers caused him to flee to Syria in 1257. His return just 2 years later, when Mamluk Sultan Qutuz came to power, marked a dramatic chapter in Baybar's journey from slave to ruler. After discussing the Mamluks, let's turn to the Mongol army. This period coincided with the Third Eastern Expedition of the Mongolian Cavalry led by Hulagu. In 1259, turmoil engulfed Syria as the formidable Mongol Cavalry, under Kitbuka, launched their Third Eastern Campaign. Arab, Armenian, and even Antioch either surrendered or were conquered. Damascus fell without resistance, mosques were converted into churches, and Muslims were forced to kneel before crosses. Egypt, separated only by the Sinai Desert, stood on the brink of Mongol conquest, as they will soon set foot on African soil. News arrived from the distant east. Great Khan Möngke had passed away, prompting Hulagu's main forces to withdraw from the Middle East and regroup at Peach Blossom Monastery. Though Möngke had actually died in 1259, internal Mongol conflicts delayed the news until 1260, impacting strategic decisions. Following Mongolian tradition, all khans and nobles returned to the grasslands to elect a new leader. Meanwhile, Grand Khan Hulagu was preparing to march into Africa before Möngke's death disrupted their plans. The Mongols were on the verge of crossing the desert and storming Cairo's gates, but now everything was on hold. With the Mongol main force withdrawing from Syria and Palestine, Kitbuka and his forces, including Armenian cavalry and local recruits, remained to defend the territories after Hulagu's departure. The Sultan of the Mamluk dynasty in Egypt, named Huth, saw the weakness of the Mongol army. They had already taken in many refugees from the Middle East, including princesses and various nobles, soldiers, and civilians. These people finally felt at home, united in their Muslim identity, saying, "Today's disgrace isn't just for conquered lands, but for all Muslims. Meanwhile, a Mongol envoy arrived with clear terms: surrender peacefully or face our unstoppable army. Some local nobles who fled from the Middle East strongly opposed surrender, having witnessed cities like Baghdad being massacred after submission. Despite their fears, the Muslim locals rallied behind Huth, who criticized surrendering nobles while inspiring soldiers with a spirited speech about defending their faith and honor. This unified Muslims under a single banner against the Mongols, while the unexpected alliance with the Crusaders led to an unprecedented peace between former adversaries. In July 1260, the Mongol Kitbuka forces prepared to battle the Mamluk Cavalry. Let's assess their strengths. The Mamluks, centered around a core of 12,000 troops, also included non-core Egyptian forces and Muslim militias, totaling an estimated 30,000 to 120,000 soldiers, though most agreed on 30,000 to 50,000 as credible figures. The highly skilled Mamluk warriors, originally purchased as slaves and trained rigorously, formed both professional soldiers and elite special forces. Each Mamluk soldier was equipped with a powerful Arabian horse, though slightly less endurance than Mongolian horses, along with a large bow, Damascus sword, shield, and spear. Comparatively, the Mongol forces, renowned for their agility, numbered between 20,000 and 25,000 troops, including 5,000 to 10,000 regular allied troops, over 2,000 heavily armored Armenian and Antiochian cavalry, and additional Syrian recruits. On July 26, 1260, the vanguard, led by Baibars, had already engaged the Mongols' small guerrilla force, but it did not yet attract current attention. September 1260 saw both main forces converging on the plains of Ain Jalut. Baibars' vanguard initially clashed with the Mongol advance but soon withdrew, luring them into a pre-planned ambush. Kitbuka and his Mongolian warriors, however, underestimated the situation, overconfident due to their past successes. They had never faced a resistance like this before and lacked fear, which dulled their senses. Meanwhile, Baibars remained calm, organizing his Muslim coalition into a three-sided encirclement, catching the Mongols off guard. While Kitbuka's troops were skilled, they lacked the strategic finesse displayed by the Mamluks and their allies. Kitbuka swiftly adjusted his tactics upon realizing the seriousness of the situation, showcasing his prowess as a commander. Many Syrian units quietly withdrew from the battlefield. In contrast, Kitbuka's tactics disappointed. Unlike the Mongol leaders of old who mastered various strategies, Kitbuka relied mainly on direct charges. His troops, unfamiliar with facing such resistance, lacked the versatility needed for such a crucial battle. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Kitbuka quickly rallied his forces, calming the temporary confusion and devising a countermeasure. Amidst the unfolding conflict, Syrian units began slipping away discreetly, reflecting their reluctant participation, driven primarily by the Muslim coalition's overwhelming strength. Despite their numerical disadvantage, the Mongols refused to concede easily, led by Kitbuka's split army, with the Armenian cavalry taking the vanguard on the left and the Muslim coalition pressing the right, under the command of Baibars. However, none of that matters now. It was the Mongolian army that launched the attack. They showed a high degree of tactical discipline during their charge. The Muslim coalition forces suffered heavy losses in the rain of arrows, but the Mongolian army was not afraid and continued to attack fiercely, putting tremendous pressure on the Muslim coalition forces. Although the Mongolian soldiers were hit by countless arrows, they still shouted loudly and pushed forward. The Mongolian army rushed into the enemy's formation in the face of a hail of knives. The Armenian heavy cavalry took the lead in the charge, and the Mongols provided arrow support from behind. The Muslim League began to waver, especially on the left, threatened by the Mongol army. At this critical moment, Tururu once again demonstrated exemplary leadership. In the age of close combat, this kind of leadership and emotional motivation is crucial. When your commander risks everything, it ignites boundless motivation in your soldiers. Togrul shouted, "For Islam!" a rallying cry that resonated profoundly. Muslims viewed this as a just war from any perspective, finally overcoming their passivity and disunity. The formidable Mongol army had instilled terror, but Togrul's heroic gamble reignited Muslim confidence and courage, turning the tide on the battlefield. The Mamluks, trained from youth as elite troops, showcased their exceptional skills, such as slicing an apple on a pole while riding, a feat highlighting their superior individual prowess compared to the Mongols. As the psychological advantage shifted, the Mongol army, reliant on inertia, found themselves at a disadvantage. However, the Mamluks restored confidence and physical stature, with their Arab-bred horses and superior combat skills, excelled in close combat where the Mongols struggled. Unlike the Mongols, adept at open-field warfare and disliking sieges, the Mamluks thrived in hand-to-hand combat. Reflecting, the Mongols rarely relied on brute force, preferring flexibility in battle over sheer aggression. Genghis Khan once said, "Our cavalry acts like individual needles probing for weaknesses. When a gap is found, they converge swiftly like a spear to disrupt enemy formations." Their disciplined approach includes orderly advances and retreats, relying heavily on archery rather than close combat. Today, however, they faced an entirely different scenario, a brutal melee where their numerical advantage was irrelevant. The skillful combat techniques of the Mamluk soldiers inflicted heavy casualties on the Mongol army, exposing Kitbuka's leadership failures. Known for their undefeated record in warfare, the Mongols suffered a devastating defeat under his command. Feeling disgraced, Kitbuka refused retreat, preferring death on the battlefield. The subsequent pursuit led to the encirclement and massacre of the remaining Mongol forces at Baybars, where they stubbornly resisted with shield formations until their arrows ran out, resulting in total annihilation. The Battle of Ain Jalut marked the Mongols' most catastrophic defeat and had far-reaching consequences, wiping out over 20,000 soldiers. Kitbuka was brought to Togrul, tightly bound. Toruru reveled in his victory over the once unstoppable Mongols, and he found that victory was hard-won. Togrul's attempt to insult Kitbuka failed to achieve his goal, so he killed him. Thorul was the first Muslim leader to effectively resist the Mongols. Kitbuka's defeat was crucial not only for the Mongols, but for the entire Muslim world. From a military perspective, this was a rare and classic cavalry versus cavalry battle. From a strategic and political perspective, this was landmark and changed the world order. If the Mongols prevailed, the entire Muslim world would be in danger, and the Mongols could reach Cairo without further military intervention. Today, the Mamluk Sultanate has established itself in Syria and has become a beacon of resistance to the Mongols in the Muslim world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next episode.